Hello, everyone. Hello, DVTA members. My name is Eliane Sfeir. I am the president of DVTA, and I welcome with me Mr. Ashwani Kumar, who is a new board of director with DVTA. And Mr. Ashwani and we will be interviewing Ted Wozniak. Ted is the president of American Translators Association. Ted, I will start right away with you. Would you like to tell us a little bit, how did you start your career? How are you today the president of American Translators Association?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this interview. I started translating and interpreting back in the 1980s, well, actually when I joined the United States Army. When I joined the Army, the career counselor asked me if I wanted to learn a foreign language and be a spy. And I said that it sounded better than being in the infantry. So as a consequence, they sent me out to Monterey, California, to the Defense Language Institute, which sits on the top of the hill above the Monterey Institute. We call it the top of the hill and the bottom of the hill. And I spent a year there learning German. That was all I did. And then subsequently, I was sent to Germany, and I, among other things, a large part of my duties there were translating, mostly translating and some interpreting between the U.S. Army and the Germans. And I was in the Army for just under 10 years. And then when I got out, I decided that, I wanted to do something with my language since I was fluent in German. Unfortunately, I was under the misconception that there was only really two things for me to do: either continue working for the government, the State Department, FBI, CIA, whatever, or become a language teacher. Since I just quit working for the government, I didn't want to really do that again. And so I went back to university again, was working on my second degree in German at the University of Texas, got my bachelor's and was working on my master's degree there when the wife of one of my professors, Dr. Lefebvre, who was fairly well known as a translation theorist, his wife came to talk to the graduate students one day, and she told us basically, if this whole academia teaching thing doesn't work out for you, there's this whole career out there called freelancing. And there's this association out there called the American Translators Association that you should probably look into if you want to do that. And you can make a living doing it. And that stuck in the back of my head and percolated there for probably another semester. And as I thought about it, I decided that, I probably wasn't going to be happy teaching German, particularly, at a high school or a junior college level, which is what I would have done. And I said, you've done translating, so why not? So I dropped out of grad school and put out my sign on the internet there. The internet was fairly young. This was like in 96 or 7, something like that. And said, here I am. I'm a freelance German to English financial translator. Come give me some work. And they did.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
How did you got involved with ATA, Mr. Ted?
I joined ATA I think it was about 5 years after I translated. I'm not exactly, I think it was 2003. I went to my first ATA conference. I got talked into going, and I fell in love with ATA, and particularly the conference and all the people in ATA. I didn't really actually get involved volunteering at that point. I just was going to the conferences. I was on the listservs and got involved that way. And at one point, fairly soon, I don't remember exactly, it might have been 2005 or 2006, I got a call from the nominating committee that asked me if I'd consider running for the board. And I said I would. And then a couple of weeks later, they called me back up and said they changed their mind. They had too many Germans on the slate already. They asked me to take my name off the slate. So I did. But then again, I think it was they asked me again in 2008 to run for director, and I did, and I lost. And then they asked me again the next year in 2009, and I did, and I lost. And then I think it was 2010, they asked me again, and I ran and finally got over the hurdle of not coming in fourth.
That is
Finally
wonderful.
got elected as the director, and then so I was director for what, 1.5 terms, and then ran for treasurer. I was treasurer for 2 terms, and then president-elect and now president. And I'm now in my final year as president. And at the ATA conference this year, I shall ride off into the ATA sunset.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Ted, for all the volunteer work you've been doing at ATA. And there's an elephant in the room with the cost, and now the interpreters being hit so much, and some of our translators are as well hit with COVID-19 and unemployment. How is ATA facing this hurdle or this money issue?
Yeah. Well, we're certainly aware that many members, particularly interpreters, are having some financial difficulties. They've seen a large drop off in work.
Mm-hmm.
I myself have seen a large drop off in work, so I'm there. I get it. One concrete thing we've done, it's not a huge thing, I admit, but it is time to renew your membership. And so the board decided to give an option of paying in installments, paying your dues in installments this year. So instead of having to pay all your dues right now up front, you can pay in 2 installments, 50% now and 50% in 6 months. Again, it's a small thing, but I think it's a sign that we know that some of our members could use this help.
That is helpful, yes.
Yeah, less directly, but I think of larger financial significance. Based upon our experience with our virtual conference last year, which was forced on us by the pandemic, but it was a pretty good experience, and we learned from that. It is, no pun intended, virtually certain that this year's conference, in addition to being in person, we hope, we pray the pandemic will let us have in October, have an in-person conference, but there will also be a virtual component, so that
wonderful.
Many, if not all of the sessions will be streamed. And so folks can attend the conference virtually without, and then that they don't have to incur travel cost, the hotel cost, which will greatly reduce the total cost of attendance, because actually we know that's the far larger component of attending the conference is the travel and hotel and meals. It's not the registration fee itself. So that will make it far more affordable and far more accessible to a lot of members.
Yes, yes. From ATA, from DVTA, we encourage you to, to keep this workforce towards virtually having a hybrid, if you want, both virtual and face-to-face, and hopefully we can be face-to-face as well again.
Yeah, I do imagine, and we'll see how this works out. I'm positive it's going to be successful, and I imagine that's the model going forward for all our conferences. For at least the end of that, there will be a physical conference and a virtual component.
Okay, okay. Well, Ted, thank you so much for today, for this quick interview that we are very happy that you were able to give us your time. Thank you so much for all the volunteer work that you've been doing at ATA, and hopefully we get to see you in October.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
See you in October.
See you in October.
Thank you. Bye-bye.